Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are kicking off the first video in my series about reorganizing my library. So my eventual goal for this library room is to have a whole load more shelves, especially behind me. There's only one straight shelf across and I want a whole wall of these shelves basically. I'll show you much more detail in my DIY vlog that I'm going to be starting very soon. That's going to be showing the entire process of how I'm making these shelves, building these shelves and putting them up above my little book nook here as well. But for this video, we have to do the very first step and basically take down all of the books that are up on this wall so that I can start measuring for my new shelves. And this shelf behind me that I'm going to be taking down is actually my TBR shelf. So I thought while I take them all down and organize them into piles, I will show you every single book that is currently on my TBR because I don't think I've ever done that before in a video. You obviously see little bits about my TBR in many different videos, like when I'm doing my TBRs every month, but I've never sat down. Firstly, I've never counted it, and I'd be interested to know how many are on my TBR currently at the beginning of the year because I kind of want to do another measure at the end of the year and see where it is. I have like an ideal number, but I don't want it to be like too high above that, but also I'm not aiming for a TBR, a physical TBR of 0 in any way because I personally love being able to browse through the books that I currently have. Like I would actually not enjoy not having books that I haven't read on my shelves. So that's why I'm also putting up these shelves, so I have specifically more space for my TBR. So I want to count them, see how many there are, and just show you everything that's on there, and also maybe do a little bit of an unhaul. I've never done an unhaul from my physical TBR because I don't like it, because I just, somewhere in my head is just something telling me, but what if you will read that book and then what if you will love it and you gave it away and you didn't know, you know? Whereas when you've read a book, like even then I'm pretty bad at giving them away and like unhauling stuff, but I'm a million times worse when it comes to my TBR. But I think some of them have been on there so long, and if they're not sparking any joy, I think I just have to unhaul. So this is going to be a organizational video. It's going to be library organization, and it's going to be the first step in getting some new shelves up. And I've been talking about doing this for so long. You're probably bored about hearing about this, but this is actually the first real step that we are taking to get this done. So without further ado, let me reorganize this camera angle and show you the shelf that we're working with. So this is the view behind me when I film usually. We have my non-fiction shelf up there. I will also have to take that down and do something with it, but today we are focusing on this mess because this is my TBR, but also my TBR has bled into this shelf that was supposed to be kind of my favorite shelf. It's not really my favorites anymore. It's a random mix of stuff. And then underneath it is my Reading Around the World map, and then underneath that is my book nook as well. I've got some extra shelving that I might put up here on this kind of wall coming out once I've done the bigger shelves up here. But yeah, I also kind of need to sort out this cushion for the book nook for my like final reveal of my book nook. But yeah, today we're just tackling the TBR, organizing it. I'm going to be putting it into piles. I'm going to clear this area, make it all neat. And what I'm hoping to end up with is going to be a pile of books to give away. I don't know how big that pile is going to be, and have organized piles of all of the other books that I've got. And I might try and organize them into like genres and stuff, because that's how I normally organize most of my shelves currently. I do them in terms of genre, just so I know where things are when I'm looking for them. But we might not have, well, we might, let's see. But my first task is just clearing this spot down here of junk so that I can start making these piles. I just feel I have so much organizational stuff to do in January to like get everything looking nice and organized. And it's kind of stressful before you begin, but I just need to like get started and then I'll feel so much better. I'm discovering there's no good angle for this. This plant is very much in the way. But like maybe this is another reason I want to get rid of these shelves, is because look how much space there is. It's like a doubled up. You can't see it all because of this plant. Oh my god, now all the books are gonna fall. Like you can have 2 layers of books on this shelf and it just like takes up way too much room in my room. This is a very small little room, so I feel like I want skinny shelves in here, and these are also in a really dark black colour, and I just think it's a bit heavy. But let's just start. Let me shove some of them back though, to give myself some space while we have it. Anyway, let's start with this little pile here. Firstly, we have 3 of these very random little non-fictions that are like, we have one about maths, we have one about geopolitics. Am I gonna read these? Probably not, but maybe I will. Like, maybe I do want a short introduction to maths, because I'm really bad at maths. Like, okay, I've got 3. I'm going to get rid of 1, but I'll keep the other 2. So let's start these piles down by my feet. And we have 1 in the unhaul pile. Next up, we have an arc. Definitely keeping this. Cannot wait to read it. This is Universality by Natasha Brown, who wrote Assembly, which I loved. I was absolutely obsessed with this book. A 5-star, one of my favorites. And this book's coming out in March. Gonna be reading it very, very soon. So excited. Definitely keeping, obviously. That's going in the keep pile down there. Next up, we have another book that I'm going to be reading pretty soon too, and this is Biography of X by Catherine Lacey. It's on my 25 priority reads for 2025. Definitely keeping. Also my friend Alice's favourite book. I've read a different Catherine Lacey book before, Pew, and I really liked it. And I'm just so intrigued about this book because of everything that Alice has said. So that is staying. Next up, we have another arc that I was sent, and I might be getting rid of this, to be honest. It's Somewhere Beyond the Sea by TJ Klune. I've never read a TJ Klune book before. I'm kind of convinced I wouldn't like their books. I've also heard a few things about them as an author that I don't 100% agree with. Some of the controversies around how they tackled certain subjects in their books. I also think this is actually a sequel to the book that I'm not going to be reading, which is House in the Cerulean Sea. So this is one I think that I'm going to unhaul. It was an arc, but I didn't actually request it. So this was just randomly sent to me, and it's already come out. This is from September. So that's another one going in the unhaul. I honestly can't believe I'm already doing 2. I'm like giving away 2. We have another arc. I'm kind of in my arc pile. This is The Enchanted Hacienda. I am keeping this. I think this will be fun. This, like, even if it's not going to be like one of my new favorite books, I think this would be a good fun time. Maybe more around like spooky season. This could be fun to read. I think I am going to keep this one, so that can go down in that pile. Then we have I Went to See My Father. This is a Korean book, and it was also sent to me. This went really bestseller, I think, in Korea, and I have seen it a few places actually already in the UK, but I think this one's going to be a really sad one. It's about a woman who loses her daughter and then returns to her childhood home in Korea. Next up, we have another arc, a proof copy that I got of The Edge of Solitude. This one, am I still interested in reading? This came out in July last year. I might have to double check based on the blurb and see if I'm still interested in this one. I'll keep it for now, but this one might be like second tier, something to get rid of. Has anyone read it? Does anyone like it? Tell me what you think, because if you guys aren't recommending it, then I will get rid of it. But for now, I will keep this one. Then we have another arc, and this is The Shadow Key. This one looks really cool actually. I was kind of just waiting for more of a moody and mysterious time to read it, and then just forgot to get around to it when autumn came, but still interested in reading this one and will give it a go. And then we have another arc, a book that has come out, and I am still interested in reading this one, and I actually already started it. It is written in second person, if my memory is correct, so it was a bit difficult to get into because it's like you walk down to the beach and you see the grass. But interesting enough, and I will give this a go. So I'm doing a pile down here for arcs, a pile for non-fiction, and then a pile for other books in general. Next up, we have a random Jay Rayner book. It's made its way onto my shelves. I do occasionally read Jay Rayner's articles. He's a food critic and writes articles about restaurants, basically. I do think that he's quite funny, usually, with how he writes. Will I read a whole book? What is it even about? I think he's going around and finding what his last supper would be. I might put this in the unhaul pile for now. I don't know. Yeah, I think I'll put it on the unhaul pile for now. Next up, we have another non-fiction. Oh my god, there's so much dust back here. Can you literally see that? Ew. This is why this needs a severe clear out. This is a non-fiction I am still interested in reading. It's The Existentialist Cafe, and it is kind of imagining 3 different philosophers sitting in this cafe drinking like, what is it, like apricot bellinis or something, and having a conversation. I'm trying to get into my philosophy, so I am going to keep this one, but I'm going to wait until I feel like I've got the mental space to do this. Okay, now we've done a little chunk. Let me reorganize this. Okay, so I'm just going to grab a chunk down and then we will go through them and put them in piles, just because this is a bit more of a nicer angle, to be honest, and it's a bit more comfortable for me to sit. So next up we have Aristotle, The Art of Rhetoric. I can't get rid of this. I do still want to keep it, and I think one day maybe I'll pick this up and read it. It's not going to be a priority, but I'm not going to get rid of it, so that can stay in with this. Is this counting as non-fiction? I guess so. Next up, very similarly, we have Plato, The Republic. I am going to keep this, but am I going to read it anytime soon? Probably not, but does that mean I'm getting rid of it? Absolutely not. I also just like collecting these Penguin Black classics as well. Next we have, why do I have this on my TBR? Raise Your Vibration, 11 practices to increase your spiritual connection. I think this was a gift, and I'm not being disparaging. I do like stuff like this, but it's just not the type of book that I read. I don't do much like meditation or anything like that, and I feel like this is probably what this is after. I might put this in the unhaul pile, and this, I honestly feel so proud of myself for already unhauling 4 books. Like, that feels insane because I just never unhaul from my TBR. Next up we have another non-fiction. This is Silk Roads, or The Silk Roads. I am definitely going to read this at some point. It's just, I've tried to read it before. It's incredibly dense. It's also, history is not one of my subjects that I know a lot about. I did not study it in any way. I did like science subjects instead. So I have a huge gap in my knowledge, and a lot of this is re-examining of history that we all know, whereas I don't kind of know the original history. So it was very difficult for me to understand, but it's something that I think will be really good for me if I manage to get through it. So I'm definitely keeping this one, and it will help me with my non-fiction kind of plans this year, which, if you didn't see my previous video on 2025 goals, then I'm going to be trying to read a bit more non-fiction. So that can go in the non-fiction pile. We have another one that I've been like umming and ahhing about getting rid of, moving on from, or just reading. You know what? I think I will actually read this one because it is a memoir, and even when I don't love memoirs, like, they're very hard to like really dislike. So I feel like there's not that much risk in just giving it a go, and I've heard good things. This is Avoidance, Drugs, Heartbreak and Dogs by Jordan Stevens of Rizzlekicks fame, and I think he explores a lot in here about like toxic masculinity, and I'll put that in the non-fiction pile. Next up we have the second one. It's kind of a sequel. I think it's like more supplementary information. I'll only know if I want to read this after I finish the first one, but it does seem a shame to get rid of now, so I will be keeping this for now, unless you guys say, oh my god, it was just a cash grab, you know, don't bother reading the second one. And then next up we have The Human Cosmos, A Secret History of the Stars. I'm still interested in reading this one. It looks really cool, and I actually don't know much, even though that's the title. I don't know much about what it's about. I think it's about humans' relationships to the stars. I am very interested in that, and also it's highly, highly relevant for the book that I'm reading, which has magic that is all related to the stars, or like the stars have a powerful kind of like symbology in the book that I'm writing currently for our main character. So this would actually be quite a good one to read pretty soon, because I am rapidly coming to the end of drafting the first book and it is really scary. What is crazy is, out of all of the books that we've done so far, this is non-fiction, this is arcs, and then this is the only other book that I've got. That feels like very unbalanced. I feel like I have been neglecting all my non-fictions. Clearly there's so many, and I've been neglecting arcs. But let's grab another pile and go through them. Okay, next up we have another arc. We have Mad Woman by Chelsea Beaker, and I am still interested in reading this one. This will still be on my TBR until I hear any different. I'm still interested in reading that one. Then we have one from Charco Press called The Plains by Federico Falco. Definitely still interested in reading this. I've not been disappointed by any books so far from Charco Press. This, I believe, is an Argentinian writer. Yes, it is an Argentinian writer. And I also, so far, really enjoy Argentinian books as well. So that's staying. Next up, we have this book, At Night All Blood is Black. And I've heard amazing things about this book, but I've also heard it's really, really sad and kind of sad in quite like a brutal way. And it's just made me really scared to read it, but I'm not going to get rid of it. Next up, another arc that I received. There's so many on this TBR. This is why we needed a rejig and like a going through. I needed to realize how many arcs that I actually have. Versus books that I'm reading, like from things that I've picked up myself. So this one is Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney, and this is a thriller crime type book, I believe. So I'm going to keep this one. I've heard really good things about this author, and I do like occasionally get just an urge to pick up a thriller or a crime book. So I feel like this will be great when that mood strikes. Next up, we have one that still has a charity shop sticker on, and that is Ali Smith Spring. I'm waiting till spring to read this one because I just think it's fun to be seasonal. But I've been really curious about this. Oh God, that's why I left it on, because it's like will not come off. But I've heard so much about this series. Good things and bad things, to be honest. Like, not everybody loves this series, so I'm excited to see which way I fall. We have another one with a charity shop sticker on still, and that is Perfume. This one is, I've taken it actually off my 25 in 2025 list, and I placed on instead The Luminaries, which is just here because one of you commented, and I'm so sorry I've forgotten your username, that I should put that one on instead, and I agreed. So I'm still not getting rid of Perfume. I still want to read this book, but it is kind of very creepy. It's about this man who is obsessed with the idea of creating and crafting the perfect smell, and he kind of realizes that he has to kill people to do it. So very fun. I think it's kind of a classic French novel, but definitely keeping that one still. And then we have The Bloody Chamber, which I believe is actually short stories, but it's like dark and fantastical, but I think kind of from myths and legends that we already know, like Red Riding Hood and Beauty and the Beast and vampires and werewolves and that kind of thing. I think this is going to be so up my street. I'm very excited to read it. I might try and wait until kind of spooky season, or I might not, because I have a feeling I'll really enjoy this one. Next we have an Olga Tokarczuk book, and it is Flights. Definitely keeping this one as well. It does have a sticker on it. I think it's a permanent sticker because this author won the Nobel Prize in Literature, which is just insane. And I think it was after the publishing of this book actually that they won it. I never know what this author's books are going to be based on the description. They're just like, usually the description's confusing enough, and then the book itself is kind of like something else wildly different as well. This says it's a novel about travel in the 21st century and human anatomy, bridging life, death, motion and migration. That could be anything. I'm excited. I'm definitely going to be reading this soon, and that is obviously staying. Then we have Hurricane Season, another one that I've heard a lot about, also another Fitzcarraldo edition, and these have not ever steered me wrong. I really, really love this publisher, and I believe this author is maybe also Argentinian. Let's see. No, I'm wrong. I got that confused. This author is Mexican. So yeah, heard good things, definitely keeping that one. Next we have a fantasy book. This is the second one in a series that I've been reading that starts with The Jasmine Throne. I really enjoyed The Jasmine Throne, and I can't actually believe that I haven't been carrying on with the series because I really enjoyed it. And then this is a newer acquisition. I got this recently, and it is a non-fiction by Ursula K. Le Guin. Very, very excited about this. This is kind of covering a lot of the stuff that she published that is non-fiction and about her activism as well. So really, really excited to read this and to learn more about my potential favourite author. Okay, and that actually makes our piles look a lot more even. This is non-fiction, this is arcs, and this is other. And then that down there is the unhaul. So let's grab some more books and see how we can go. Oh God, okay. How many can I get? Oh, that's a good stack. Honestly, this just gets me more excited about reading these books as well. It reminds me why I bought them in the first place. So next up we have a Lex Croucher book. I have loved all of Lex Crouch's books that I've read so far. And this is actually one of their young adult books. Their young adult I didn't love as much as their adult romances, but still very fun. They're always queer and funny and a nice like adventurous romp. So that one obviously definitely staying. Then we have a Japanese one that I picked up relatively recently, and this I think is going to be more on the cozy vibe, and it is What You Are Looking For Is in the Library, and it's about someone who is obsessed with giving people the perfect book recommendation, which is me. So I thought that would be kind of fun to read. Next we have a book I've actually had for a while, and it is Creatures of Passage. I need to take off this half price sticker. I can't actually remember why or when I picked up this book, but I've seen really good reviews about it, and it seems like one of those books that's kind of hit or miss. Yeah, that sticker did not come off clean at all, but it has revealed that underneath it says that it was longlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction in 2022. So it must have been then that I picked this up, or around then, or because of that, because that was one of the years that I tried to read the whole of the long list for the Women's Prize. Next up, we have a book that I have tried really hard to read, and I'm not giving up, but it is on kind of a pause currently. This was on my priority list to read last year, and I honestly was reading it for like 6 months, and I never actually read it. I never picked it up and actually read it. Something about the writing as well, like it's not a pleasant book to read. Like the writing is really tiny. Oh my god, something's gonna fall. Oh my god, please don't fall down on me. That is so scary. But yes, this is The Bridge Over the Drina, and I'm reading this because it is a book from my Reading Around the World challenge. This is set in a Bosnian village that is like basically all about the history of this bridge that goes over the river. I feel like it's one of those books that's like so culturally important but actually kind of a bore to read, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm gonna keep this, but I kind of wish I wasn't. So next up we have another arc that is called Passion Tide, and this author wrote, I think, Mermaids of the Black Conch, I believe. So I'm definitely interested in reading this. I haven't actually read that other book, but I've heard it's really good. So that is one that I'm keeping. Another arc that I've seen around quite a lot is this one, Bright Eye Burn by Molly Aitken, and I actually saw her recently on social media just talking about like what it was like to publish her first book and being a debut author and everything like that. And then I realized that I had this book on my shelf and I hadn't read it yet, and I felt kind of bad because it's really hard being a debut author and like sending out arcs to people and stuff. So I will be reading this soon. This is like a witchy historical fiction book, I believe. Next up we have Ripley. I was sent this when the TV show came out with, what's his name? I'm really bad at actors. You know that guy, the hot priest. But they did like a recovering for the TV show that came out. But this is actually like a classic book. But I'm not gonna prioritize reading it. Next up is a relatively new book that I got, and this is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. So excited about this. I've decided I'm actually gonna do a whole video reading Abby Jimenez's books and reacting to them real time and then ranking them at the end. And this is the first one that I'm going to be reading in that vlog, and I'm kind of going to start that vlog quite soon actually, because I think it'd be fun to do it around Valentine's Day, to do like a romance kind of vlog. That I think that'll just be like really fun. So obviously keeping this one, I'm going to be reading that pretty soon. Then we have Winterkeep, which is one that is in the series that starts with Graceling. I'm definitely keeping this, still going to be reading that series. Okay, these piles are falling over already, but it's fine. Okay, next up we have the Ruth Ozeki, what's this one? Book of 4 Minutes of Emptiness. Definitely keeping this. Don't know when I'm going to read it, but I am keeping it. I need to make sure these piles aren't going to fall over now. Next up we have The Dutch House by Anne Patchett. Also definitely keeping in what I think about Anne Patchett. And while we're doing Anne Patchett, I also have this one, Tom Lake, that is on my 25 priority reads for 2025. And this is just such a beautiful book, isn't it? I just love this. I've never read Anne Patchett, but definitely going to this year. Next up we actually have a manga, and it is Fence, and I've not read this one yet because it's volume 5 and I've only read up to volume 3. So I need to be reading this one. I don't actually collect manga physically. I read it usually from the library, which is a great hack, by the way, because it's kind of expensive, obviously, to buy manga all the time. And if you want to dip your toe in and you don't know where to start, then check out your library and see what's available. That's how I started reading this. It's really fun. It's silly and it's campy and it's great about these boys who are on a professional fencing team. Next up, we have another fantasy, and it is The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. Definitely keeping Really love this author's other work and think I'll love this one as well. Then we have Chess by Stefan Zweig. I'm doing this for the Reading Around the World challenge, and also I've heard really good things about this book, and also it's so tiny. I feel like usually short books on my shelves don't last long because I'll just like pick them up one afternoon and start reading them. But this is another one I'm definitely keeping. We haven't gotten rid of one in a while. I'm glad I got rid of some at the beginning because otherwise I'd be feeling bad right now. Then we have a Kazuo Ishiguro book, which is An Artist of the Floating World. This was actually shortlisted for the Booker Prize. I did not realise that one because I don't often hear people talking about this one, but I will be reading it. I'm reading every single book by this author, the whole backlist. Then we have The Island of Dr. Moreau. I hate these editions, to be honest. I don't really like the way they do these sci-fi ones, these sci-fi like fantasy masterworks. I think they do them really ugly, but it's a classic of sci-fi. I really do want to read it, and I also want to read it because I have this book, which is The Daughter of Dr. Moreau, which is obviously a take on the first one, and it's by Silvia Moreno Garcia, who is an author that I really enjoy. I love how she just writes from every different genre and every different style and just doesn't care. Like, that just seems so fun. I'd love to be that type of author one day who can just turn their pen to like anything they want to do. Next up, we have Sophie's World. I have already got this on my 25 priority reads list. And then we have another non-fiction that is How to Be a Stoic. Again, trying to be in my philosophy era. And I love everything I know so far about Stoicism, so that one's staying. We have another one, Lessons in Stoicism, which is a much shorter, I think a more manageable read. So I'll probably actually start here. Then we have a memoir by Patti Smith, which is Just Kids. Such an iconic book. All the cool girls read it and love it, and I just want to know why. So I'm going to be reading this one as well. And then we have a short little poetry collection by Ali Lewis called Absence, which I'm also going to be keeping because I'm going to try and get into poetry this year. So that is currently everything that's on this shelf, this very dusty shelf that I'm going to be taking down. But that's not the whole TBR, because we also have ones on this round shelf, and we also have some over there above my desk. Okay, this is going to be bad lighting, but it's fine. No one here really minds, do they? You don't come to these videos for cool camera quality. Firstly, we have another arc that I really recently received. This is In the Judgment of Others. It's about this like amateur performance, but it's also about like the experience of going insane, and I think it sounds really cool. Then we have A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon, another big one. This is the prequel to Prior of the Orange Tree, and I really want to read it. Then we have a little chunk of Discworld books. I have 4 here, and I have another one over on my other shelf. I love collecting these whenever I can from charity shops. They are so fun. I love these old style covers, although this one I think is in a different style and it really annoys me. Soul Music, Carpe Jugularum, Small Gods, and Night Watch. So obviously keeping those. They are so much fun. I just need more space for them when I've read them because I'm running out on my fantasy shelf. Next up, we have The Ballad of Peckham Rye. I think this one will be a fun short read. And then we have The Grace of Kings, which is a fantasy book that I also really want to read, and I just think it has the most beautiful cover as well. I am realizing I've not got rid of any in a while, but it's just the way that the cookie crumbles, you know? Then we have another non-fiction, Strong Female Character. Definitely going to be keeping that and reading it. That's going in the non-fiction pile. Then we have In Memorandum, which I've heard is just heartbreaking and really beautiful, so we shall see. I'm nervous to read it. Then we have Crooked Plough, definitely reading this very soon. Also another one on my priority reads list, and yeah, I'm going to be reading that really soon. I've heard amazing things. Okay, and then the last couple from this shelf, I have Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. That is just the coolest kind of cover. These are sci-fi, and I think that they're kind of like eco sci-fi. It's a series called the Southern Reach series. Gonna be reading this really soon. Really think I will enjoy it. Then we have Blackwater, The Flood. This is by the author of Beetlejuice, actually, which I didn't realize, and someone told me in the comments, which is really cool. I honestly picked it up because of this absolutely amazing cover that's like textured as well. And then we have I Capture the Castle with a horrific cover, but apparently a delightful book. Gonna be reading this pretty soon. Another one we have on this circle shelf that I have not read yet is Ducks. I'm honestly scared to read this one. It is really well reviewed, and it is a graphic novel. And actually my friend Bex got this for me when we were in a charity shop. I've heard that it's so sad but really good, so I'm just scared to read it, honestly. And I just don't think I've ever read a really sad graphic novel as well. I don't know how that's going to make me feel like with pictures, you know? And then the last 3 chunky ones that we have are Wolf Hall, Hilary Mantel. Scared to read it, but kind of excited as well. Apparently the best historical fiction ever. Then we have a good old Russian classic, The Brothers Karamazov. I'll read it at some point, I don't know. Haven't got any like priorities to read Russian classics this year, but maybe I should. And finally, The Luminaries, which is apparently a beautiful book, but it's just so long and scary. But, you know, sometimes you just have to start reading them and then they're not scary anymore. Okay, so this is the TBR empty, and this circle thing, I've extracted the TBR from there as well. Finally, we have my current TBR that I have usually just sitting above me on my desk. And that includes books such as, I won't go into these in detail. If you want to see my January TBR, then I have a whole video on it. We have Electra. We have Green Tea. We have this Terry Pratchett, Guards. We have another Kazuo Nocturnes. We have Outline by Rachel Cusk. And we have The Wolf and the Woodsman. And then we have a book that I'm currently reading, which is The Overstory. And that is my entire TBR laid out in front of me. This has been very instructive for me actually to know how my TBR looks. Honestly, I need to scan around the room and make sure that I'm not missing anything. But I don't think I am. So this is the damage. I did not count it. I'll do that in a second. But I've made it into piles. So this is the unhaul pile. I know there's only 4 books there, but I'm proud of that, to be honest. And then starting from this side, that is my non-fiction stack. This is my arcs. And then this is everything else. So let me actually like sit and count it now and tell you what the number is. Why don't you make a guess, and then the closest person can get a little prize. I don't know what the prize is going to be, but you can get a prize if you're honest and you tell me that you got close. I think that is 78 books, which is actually way longer than I thought it was going to be. I was aiming to keep it around 50. I think that that's like quite enough. So that was, what did I just say, 78? But I'm taking away 4 books, so that's bringing it down to 74. Okay, that's a good number to work off of. We'll see. I will not let that number get above 100, even when I have my new shelves. I think that's a little stressful. But because I think that having a smaller physical TBR keeps it more fresh, keeps it more like stuff that you're actually going to be reading relatively soon. I think when you get to the higher numbers, 78 is already too high for me. It's kind of clogged up with stuff that you're not reading. Like, you're not going to be picking that up anytime soon. That's like not too bad, but also it's actually a lot more than I thought. I think the last time I counted it was much closer to 50. I don't know how I was physically fitting all those books on these shelves, to be honest. Like, one shelf, 78 books. That does not work, which is why it's spread out everywhere, to be honest. But I think I'm going to end the video there, basically, because the next part of this video is me starting the vlog, where I'm going to be starting to take down these shelves and tell you my DIY plans. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be very, very fun. And I will be posting results in the same video as well. So that's going to be like a vlog that's going to take me a while. But in the comments below, tell me, how many books do you have on your physical TBR? Do you even know how many you have on there? Because I did not before this. Do you have more than me? Do you have less than me? How do you feel about the number? That's the most important thing. And also, most importantly to me, tell me if any of these books I should unhaul or I should read immediately, because I really want to know that as well. But thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for keeping me company while I got this job done. Please remember to like this video because that really helps me out, and subscribe if you're not already, and then go back and watch all of my other videos, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye!